Is your next insurance agent going to be an artificial intelligence agent? Let's find out. Today's amazingly special guest, Steve Miller. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, where we make AI simple, practical, and accessible for small business owners and leaders. Forget the complicated tech talk or expensive consultants. This is where you'll learn how to implement AI strategies that are easy to understand and can make a big impact for your business. The Artificial Intelligence Podcast is brought to you by Fraction AIO, the trusted partner for AI digital transformation. At Fraction AIO, we help small and medium-sized businesses boost revenue by eliminating time-wasting, non-revenue generating tasks that frustrate your team. With our custom AI bots, tools, and automations, we make it easy to shift your team's focus to the tasks that matter most, driving growth and results. We guide you through a smooth, seamless transition to AI, ensuring you avoid costly mistakes and invest in the tools that truly deliver value. Don't get left behind. Let Fraction AIO help you stay ahead in today's AI-driven world. Learn more, get started, fractionaio.com. Let's try. Now, Steve, thank you so much for being here. We're seeing so many fast changes in the world of AI and the world of healthcare. And I've seen some really interesting things where we've shifted from asking like WebMD and self-diagnosing and getting convinced you have something horrible. Now we ask ChatGPT and we freak out. Is the next iteration now ChatGPT is going to go, you do probably have it, and here's the insurance I recommend?
So I think insurance is going to change. The artificial intelligence is going to change the way people think of insurance and the way insurance interacts, like the way we think today. And I don't know if it's going to be for better or worse, but essentially what it comes down to is it's like a dinosaur. Most insurance companies are operating in the Stone Age. Their systems are archaic. They use claims systems that are very old. They're not known for the latest and greatest technology. And the tricky part with healthcare, if you think back even the last 10 or 20 years since the dawn of the internet, healthcare information there's been no single source of good healthcare information. So there's hospital groups, there's insurance companies, everybody's storing different types of information about you as an individual, but they don't talk to each other. And that's very different than everything else. We have apps for everything now on our phone. And then you have these clunky insurance apps that don't really do much. It's hard to even get an app to tell you what your deductible is on your health plan and the claims that you've had towards your deductible. I think it's going to lead to an age where insurance is going to look nothing like the insurance of the future. And the reason why is AI is pulling data together in a way that we never could have thought possible even 5 years ago. So this data that let's take yourself as an individual, right? So let's say I have multiple health issues going on. I'm seeing these providers. That insurance company may or may not have any or all of that information, just depending on where you're going. And with AI, it's able to aggregate data in a way that we weren't able to do before. And insurance companies could use that in a couple of different ways. They could use it to make better decisions for yourself as an individual, or this is what I hope doesn't happen, is they use it to deny claims, right? Because the more that they know, they could theoretically say, you don't need to do that because the artificial intelligence says that you don't need this procedure, that you try these other things. But I think it's going to a place where that data is aggregated and more accessible. I think it can be used to really bring a lot of efficiency. And that's the other problem is insurance companies in general, they're very top heavy. So they spend a lot of money on administration, and even within the healthcare system, I think administration is a huge problem. But you look at the amount of staff that hospital or doctor's office has to have just to file claims with the insurance company. It's insane.
That's something I'm really interested in, because I feel like that's the biggest inefficiency in healthcare, is that every single doctor has to have a process for every different insurance company, because you slightly different forms and and if you get a single code wrong, you can come back and you have a lot of people that develop this expertise that's necessary in filling out the insurance form for all their patients. And the biggest use of AI right now is really smoothing processes like that, where it could speed that up to where now the AI just knows how to take the doctor's notes and enter that. Kind of instead of being 5 people, you just have one person who manages all that. And that is something that I find really interesting. Hospitals have the same thing like universities, like for every teacher at some universities, there's 50 admin staff. And like most of the tuition goes to teachers. Like of your tuition, it's like 80% is going to people that aren't teaching it. So do you think that this is where the first biggest opportunity is that kind of the first adopters who capture this efficiency are going to start to grab new market share?
Yes, I think if efficiency is good, but I would hope that it's used to put that money back into patients, into the members. So as you mentioned with universities, they're a great example how much of those dollars are actually going towards education. If you take the insurance world and the healthcare world, how many of those dollars are actually making it back to delivering healthcare? And it's a pretty shockingly low number. Um, but I would hope that it's not like a United Healthcare, for example, which is, I think it's been the number one performing stock, and it's the number one is a percentage of the overall. I think it's a Dow Industrial average that they're in. It's literally the largest stock from a volume standpoint that it's been for like the last decade. So I would hope that you don't companies like that aren't using it just to pad their bottom line, that they're actually putting that back to the member. And I think that's the danger. It's yes, if the efficiency is going to come, but where is that going to be redirected? So I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there's a potential to abuse that and redirect it towards share buybacks and areas that aren't helping people live better lives. And I think so that's the double-edged sword of AI. So I think it's happening, but we have to be conscious. And I don't think people are realizing the how fast AI is going to change things. And you need to be an advocate for, I think, your the member side and actually healthcare companies delivering healthcare, because it's otherwise they're gonna use it to abuse the system or take advantage of people like they're already doing.
So what we're seeing a lot of right now is fractioning and factoring of industries where smaller companies with AI or with tools are able to do larger companies because they have that agility they can do things faster. And there's a huge opportunity with healthcare, with insurance, because these large companies are so archaic, they're so far behind. We're already seeing some companies attempt to do this where they try to do the no doctor's visit health insurance. Those now you don't have to do the blood test, you have to do this and that. And some of those are working, some of them aren't. We're seeing these companies
Yep.
try to one approach. Do you think we're going to see more smaller companies break into the market because they can now compete because they don't need 100 years of infrastructure because now they can fill in that gap with technology?
Yeah. So that's an awesome question. There are thousands of, I would call them tech startups across the country that are trying to get into the healthcare space. I probably evaluate, I'm going to say on a given week, I probably talk to three or four of them. And as soon as I talk to some, there's new ones that pop up. And what I can tell you is it's okay. Are you trying to actually put a band-aid? Are you using AI? So there's two types of companies, I think. There's companies that are using AI to truly do something different and unique that solves a problem in the healthcare space. And then there's companies that simply try to do something that like the healthcare system's already that's let's say the healthcare system is doing something wrong that's not really working, but they use AI to make it more efficient, but it's still not a good practice. That doesn't move, that doesn't help anybody. And so the companies that are out there that are trying to, I would say I refer to it as the status quo. So there's companies that want to, I think we could agree that healthcare is broken in the United States. It's not really working great for, especially like the end user, the member. It's not really working. Is the problem perpetuating that broken system? Is it enabling that broken system to continue on and function? Or is it like completely using AI in a way that changes the healthcare game where it's fixing that broken system? I tend to focus on the platforms that are truly changing the game, that aren't just trying to perpetuate and I would say maybe disrupt the existing broken system, which is completely dysfunctional. And so I think that the hard part is everybody uses AI. It's like hey, we're using AI technology. Talk to us. We're solving problems. We're fixing things. And a lot of the companies, it's just a buzzword. It's not, or they're using a component of their technology that is AI based, but it's really not an AI platform. So we see a lot of that as well. Yeah, it's very interesting. There are a ton of companies out there. I don't know. A lot of them are either private equity backed. That's the other thing is they have to get funding. They have to show scalability. They, it's a Wild West right now with all these companies popping up.
Yeah, and that comes to one of my core issues, which is that AI can accelerate any process. So a lot of
Correct.
companies will say, we don't have a process, let's start with AI. So they're trying to develop, and that just means that it crashes faster. What you're bringing up here, which is very interesting, is that it can also accelerate a bad process or a malicious process. And we do see one of the things that I see a lot with startups is that there's I encounter a lot of AI startups, as you can imagine. It's a huge part of my life. And it's so many of them do something cool, but don't solve the problem. And the problem is those are the type of companies that as soon as the private equity money dries up, they're gone because,
Correct.
and it's like, this is something really critical. I think it's really a struggle in the AI space. So this is something we've seen in previous revelations is that, yes, 3D goggles are cool, but they don't solve a problem. Like nobody, when have you seen someone wearing those Apple 3D goggles anymore? Like they had that out.
Or the 3D television, like you remember the
Yeah.
3D TVs, like
Yeah, exactly. There was like 2 movies for 3D TVs. Like, I guess if you watch Avatar every day, it's worth it. But like, we have these technologies. It's really cool. And now we're seeing again, everyone's now you can have AI in your glasses. I'm like, what? I paid a bunch of money when I was 25 to have LASIK to get rid of glasses. Why would I go now? I can have glasses on all the time again. But there's a computer inside. It's like, no, I don't
that's
want
exactly.
that. And I think that it's a different problem, but it's the same idea, which is that if you're not solving a big problem, it's hard to become anything more than either a feature that other companies absorb or something that's lasts for a little while. And we're really seeing this. I've seen this a lot. Like the failure rate for AI companies is something like 80, 85%. And that's because they skip over this step. Oh, we thought of something really clever to do. Great. How many people need that? Are you solving a problem for? Because you're either moving people away from a problem or towards a solution, something they want. So that's really important. I think that one of the challenges is in healthcare is that we often look at small pieces of it, right? Which is what if your doctor's visit was 5 minutes faster? And is that going to expend your lifespan? Like the really big issues is like the wealthiest countries in the world, people still don't live very long. Like the health, like life expectancy is going down. That should be the kind of
It
things
is.
there's the big picture, right? It's like the big picture is wait, why are certain diseases increasing rather than decreasing? And it's like, unfortunately, that we're seeing a lot of companies that focus on the small thing because it's clever and interesting. Do you think that we can do a reset for how we interpret insurance? Because the idea of insurance is really like collective risk. And it doesn't seem like that's the core thesis of insurance companies anymore. Right now, it's like maximum revenue.
Yeah, I've been involved. So I'm actually involved in a company or organization called Health Rosetta, and it's a couple of tech guys. It's actually one of the guys named Dave Chase. I'll give him a shout out. He actually was involved in Microsoft's health division and getting that up and going, and they served a lot of healthcare like hospitals and basically building systems for health systems to use. And he was like, wow, coming from the tech world, he was like, healthcare is so messed up. He's like, this is insane. And got done with that. I want to fix healthcare. And I would have called him crazy 15 years ago. I've known him now for 10 or 12 years. But this nonprofit Health Rosetta that we've built was really around just, hey, let's create a blueprint for fixing healthcare. And it's been enormously successful. But I think one of the pillars of wanting to fix healthcare, it's a industry that has not been transparent. There hasn't been data that there was data out there, but not in a transparent way. And I think that's where AI is really coming in and changing the game because it's able to take even this data sources that are completely unconnected. It's able to look for patterns and do things in a very efficient way that we couldn't do before. And I think it ultimately comes down to accountability. And it's like from an insurance, where's the value in your current insurance company? They basically have a network and then are, for the most part, they become a barrier to getting the healthcare that you need. Deductibles are going up, copays are going up. Where's the value? What value? People are like, I can't afford this surgery. I have health insurance, but I can't afford this surgery because I have a $6,000 deductible and I make $25 an hour, $20 an hour. Do you know how long it takes that person after taxes to pay their deductible? And they're living paycheck to paycheck. Tell me how that makes sense. But what it comes down to is your insurance companies, they have these networks, and the networks are actually, people don't realize it. They're like, oh, I have an insurance company. They're helping make healthcare affordable. And the networks don't manage cost or quality of healthcare. Okay. So that network that you're paying for, that insurance company, okay, you're just getting a discount off of bill charges with the hospital. That doesn't control the cost of healthcare because if, let's say you're getting a 50% discount, what happens when the hospital raises prices 10%? You're getting 50% off of a 10% increase. Like they're not controlling the cost of healthcare. And most insurance companies, you pay them a premium that is associated with what you're spending on healthcare, theoretically. As the cost of healthcare goes up, and that insurance company is making a percent of profit margin, their profits just it's just going up exponentially as healthcare costs increase. So we've created a monster because as healthcare costs increase, there's a an incentive for insurance companies to actually do less. Like, why wouldn't they want costs to increase? Because nobody can go without healthcare. Nobody can go without health insurance. So, like, why wouldn't they just want costs to increase? And then, as long as they have a robust network, they're not looking at, okay, which ones are the good and bad doctors. They pay them all equally. If you're a good doctor, you're a bad doctor. You do a surgery and you screw it up and you have to redo it. Oh, guess what? I'm going to get paid again. Imagine taking your car to an auto shop. You just paid for a new transmission. You drive out of there, your transmission fails. And then they're like, oh, yeah, you always bring it back. We'll throw another one in for $4,000. You say, wait a minute, you guys didn't do it right. In any other business, in any other industry, it's insanity. But it's the status quo and completely accepted in healthcare. So it's just, you start to think of what value is the insurance company actually providing, and take on top of it all the extra labor that you have with the people dealing with the billing. And how much of the healthcare resources is insurance eating up? It's a huge problem. But the struggle doing employee benefit consulting for over 20 years, I struggle to find the value that insurance companies truly provide. But they're a necessary evil.
So AI and automation tools can only accelerate any process, as we talked about a little bit earlier. So it seems like when the system itself needs restructure and we need to reapproach, like even from a governmental level, because so much of healthcare and so much, as we've seen, of like news channels were sponsored by health companies. So obviously that's going to create a slant because where your revenue comes from affects what you do. And we see so much with lobbying and affecting government. Is there a way that do we have to solve that before AI can solve? Do we have to like restructure how we approach it and what the rules are, like from a top down thing first? Is that the first phase?
Yeah. So I think I started off this conversation talking about data. Okay. And AI needs data, right? Essentially, if AI doesn't have any data to work with, or you don't give it some direction, it can't really do anything. And if you give AI bad data, AI is going to give you a bad output. Or if you give AI incomplete information, your output from AI is going to be limited. And I think the Consolidated Appropriations Act, I think it was 2018 or 2019 that was passed. I know Health Rosetta did a lot of work and there's a lot of lobbying efforts, but it's dubbed the Transparency Act. And basically what that was is like, hey, we want to try to bring transparency in the healthcare space. So we're going to require hospitals to provide, and they all did this. There was no data format requirements, but basically they had to post all of their agreements, all of their pricing with all of the insurance companies that they operated with. Okay. And there was a penalty for noncompliance. It's a pretty minimal penalty. And I think what they didn't expect is how many hospitals just would not comply and they'd rather pay the penalty because they don't want to publish the data. And then you had a lot of hospitals that did publish the data, but it was in a previously unusable format. Enter AI. Now AI can actually use that unusable human data and turn it into something that's actually useful. But it still doesn't solve the problem that not all hospitals are providing that data. So there's holes. So even if you were trying to piece things together, you can make some assumptions and AI can do really good guessing, but and it's only going to get better. But I think from a federal government standpoint, they have to mandate the transparency. It's hey, do whatever you want, but at least give us the data so that we can start putting AI to work to fix some of these problems because it comes back to having that data, having good data, and having that transparency. Without it, AI is going to it's just going to be limited to what you can do. But there are a lot of companies out there that have figured out how to use the data that's available. There's a company that I'm working with right now out of Chicago. It's amazing. I remember the first time I sat on the phone with them, I was like, wait, you're doing what? But for years, we were trying to collect member data basically for the purpose of managing health plans better for like people's actually healthcare. We call it population health management. So, for example, you have members, let's say you have a member that's diabetic and has high blood pressure. We probably want to know that they're getting their insulin or they're taking their high blood pressure medication, right? And we call these gaps in care. If they can't afford their medication, they're obviously not going to take it. Or if they aren't don't have a doctor because for whatever reason, there's a lot of reasons why they may not have a doctor. They're obviously probably not going to have a prescription, but we know they have the diagnosis. So we can piece things together using data and using some analytics platforms that help us help people help themselves. That's the best way I can explain it. And we also can bring in clinicians. So if we're in an area that the healthcare system's not working, we can bring in clinicians and we can give them access to information so they can help people. And one of the neat things this company was doing in Chicago, and I hope this isn't like too long of a story for you, is we've struggled getting that information because insurance companies, we're usually getting that information from the insurance companies and they don't want to share it. And because they don't want to share it because it allows having that information allows us to hold them accountable. And when I talked to you earlier, they don't really have incentive to actually make people better. They want costs to go up, not down. There's really not an incentive other than the other insurance companies that they compete with. And in a state like Michigan, we have Blue Cross Blue Shield. They have over a 70% market share here. So take that out. They don't really have an incentive, but they don't really want to give you that data. So this other company that we're working with, and I was explaining the problem, they're going directly. So the state of Michigan actually set up, it's a data exchange of medical records at the individual level so I'll give you an example. They set it up originally because if let's say you see a specialist for your diabetes and you see another specialist because you have arthritis, and then you see a dermatologist. Okay. And all three of those dermatologists are with different health systems. Maybe they're not all with the same health system. They're not able to actually see. So let's say one of your physicians prescribes you a drug and the other physician prescribes you a drug. They don't know that other physician maybe prescribed you another. There's no visibility into that. Sometimes the pharmacy can go and check and say, oh, wait, if you take these two drugs together, you're going to die. But they may not go well together. And there's nobody really overlooking. There's holes in the data. So the state of Michigan does have a data exchange, and nationally, there are some data exchanges that are getting up and running. So this company in Chicago said, instead of fighting with the insurance companies to get this data and the members, we're just going to go to these exchanges and we're going to go through the medical billing systems on the healthcare provider side to get this information. Problem solved. All we need to do is create an app and the employee logs in, clicks a button, and it downloads all of their information into the app. It's incredible. And it's got AI built in. They can literally ask AI questions and AI has access to all of their medical records. So it's going beyond, you started the conversation where you can right now, I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm having these symptoms. And ChatGPT may ask you some questions and say, what are your lab values for this? What are your lab values for this? It knows what to ask for. Imagine that AI already has all those answers and you type in, hey, I think I have something going on with this. Imagine the accuracy that it's already going to have all your lab values. It's going to know your doctors and where you're going for care and what you're doing. It's going to know and see, hey, we think you might have a knee surgery coming up based on your medical records that last week. Do you want me to help you decide which doctor to pick or where to go? But that technology already exists. And it was mind blowing to me that, hey, we had a problem. We couldn't get this information. We were struggling to get it. And they just went a completely different direction to solve the problem. And that's the innovation that I'm talking about. Like it's going to be game changing. So you put the power of that in a person's hand. It's incredible. Hopefully that wasn't too long of a story for you.
No, that's good. I think that's what we want to see is that while there are downsides, there are opportunities, and that there is like there are some really cool ways that AI can overcome these existing hurdles and maybe do this type of end run where it creates the transparency because it's able to kind of see through the things like we've seen AI tools now transcribe or break like cipher languages that we haven't been able to figure out for thousands of years. We've seen some really cool breakthroughs there. I think this is all very exciting that there's the downside, but there's also the upside. And that's like what I want to focus on. So for people that are interested in what you do and like kind of excited by some of these innovations you've talked about, where's the best place to find you and see some of the amazing things that you're working on?
Yeah, so I actually consult for a company called Kanick, but I would say my LinkedIn profile, I go by EB Guru, and I help companies implement these types of strategies. And really, my goal is to turn healthcare back on its head and make it work for your members or human beings and turn it into what it's supposed to be and making people healthier and live more productive lives. That's my goal. And I help larger employers with that every day. And I love what I do, but that's my way of impacting and putting a dent in the universe and in fixing healthcare in our country. And hopefully we do get some legislation or more legislation around transparency, because like I said, the more data we get, that's where you're going to see big things change. And the better quality data that you get, it's going to really speed up. I don't want to say we don't want band-aids on the broken system. We want to actually create solutions that completely change the game and fix our broken system. And that's what we're working on.
That's amazing. I think that's really cool. Thank you so much for being here today for another amazing episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and strategies on how to leverage AI to grow your business and achieve better results. In the meantime, if you're curious about how AI can boost your business's revenue, head over to artificialintelligencepod.com/calculator. Use our AI revenue calculator to discover the potential impact AI can have on your bottom line. It's quick, easy, and might just change the way think about your business. While you're there, catch up on past episodes, leave a review, and check out our socials. If you enjoyed this episode, I've got 2 more that I think you're going to love. Click one of these videos to dive into more awesome content, and don't forget to subscribe for even more insights on using AI to grow your business. And I'll see you in the next one.